addressing you shortly, followed by our Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration, Teresa Constantinides, and she'll be sharing some comments regarding our efforts and measures to enhance campus safety. I'd ask that you hold your questions, please, until the end, and then we'll go ahead and take questions from you. So now it is my privilege to introduce President of the University of New Mexico, Garnett Stokes.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I am Garnett Stokes, President of the University of New Mexico. I am joined today by our Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration, Teresa Constantinides, who, by the way, served as acting president while I was away on annual leave, and our Chief of Police, Joe Silva. We will remain available after our remarks to answer your questions as fully and directly as we can. I want to begin by expressing my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Michael Lamott, the young life lost in the tragic event, yet another senseless act of violence that occurred in our Casas del Rio housing complex on July 25th. Our hearts are with all who've been affected: students, families, members of the Lobo community, members of the community at large. From the moment that this incident began, our campus police, local and state law enforcement, and crisis response teams have worked tirelessly to provide safety and guidance to our students and staff. The suspect was apprehended later that day, and support resources remain available for anyone struggling in the aftermath. I also want to express my gratitude for the support of our student government leadership, UNM and GPSA, and for their willingness to seek and implement solutions with us. I stand before you today to share critical information about our campus safety efforts, our communication process, and our housing policies. It is important for our UNM community to understand our continuing efforts to provide a safe campus and to reassure the community that, in fact, our work is never ending. The investigation into the tragic shooting on July 25th continues, and we are limited in what we can share about the actual incident beyond information that we've already shared. We do know that 3 individuals who were not enrolled at the university were invited into one of our residence halls. We're working to evaluate what preventative measures can be taken to limit our residence halls to the students we serve, while still providing a welcoming environment where students feel safe and at home. We have already begun a comprehensive review of our key card access system, guest policies, and physical security measures. I have directed those leaders in charge of safety, security, and housing to recommend both short and long-term safety improvements. As we work toward increasing our safety measures in residence halls, we must balance safety and security with creating an environment where our students can learn and thrive and form communities together. Over the past several years, and as an ingrained part of UNM's 2040 strategic framework, the University of New Mexico has made campus safety one of our highest priorities, continuously investing in new programs, technology, and partnerships to protect our community. In fact, in the last 5 years, we have funded more than $20 million in direct public safety improvements, some of which have been supported by the New Mexico legislature and the governor. Specifically, in the last 5 years, the legislature has appropriated more than $4 million. In that same time frame, I have directed $16 million of university funds to be used toward technology, crime prevention, crime deterrence, and public safety programs across our campuses in Albuquerque and beyond. Executive Vice President Teresa Constantinides will be providing additional details on these specific investments. The university, working closely with UNM PD and local law enforcement, has strengthened emergency notification systems, regularly updated our campus safety and security policies, and expanded outreach for crime prevention and mental health resources. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention at this time the lengths many of our campus departments went to ensure our new student orientation students and families were cared for and communicated with, from meal services and shuttles to offering support services and ensuring that they were able to enroll in classes. Perhaps one of the most visible examples of our commitment to security and safety is the recent acquisition and demolition of the Motel 6 property near South Campus. This location has long been a source of criminal activity, with hundreds of police calls and documented incidents over several years. By purchasing and clearing this problematic site, not only are we addressing one of the area's highest risks for crime, we are also opening the way for thoughtful redevelopment into a vibrant, safe gateway for our campus community. The project required collaboration between university leadership, the Board of Regents, law enforcement, and city partners, and has already improved safety in the surrounding areas. At UNM Hospital, leadership teams work in tandem with providers, and staff have implemented several initiatives to reduce workplace violence, with additional hands-on training, a new alert system, and streamlined processes for reporting safety incidents. We've made significant investments, but I know that public safety is not a box that we can ever check as mission accomplished. Keeping our community safe, our campus community safe, is a key priority every day and will continue to be a priority for us. My team and I come to work thinking of ways to make sure that our campus is safe and secure. It's on our minds all the time. Despite understandable concerns following this tragedy, I do want to mention that to date, there has not been a drop in student enrollment for the upcoming year at UNM. So far, we've only heard from 2 prospective students who've decided not to enroll, and we're not aware of any current students who have disenrolled or transferred as a result of this incident. In fact, we continue to anticipate the largest incoming freshman class in our history, with our fall enrollment up 3%, an increase of nearly 600 students compared to last year. This shows, I think, the trust that students and families continue to place in our campus and our community. We're grateful for the faith they put in us and the recognition of the care that we demonstrate toward our campus community. Our response to this tragic event was strong across the board, and I am so appreciative of the engagement and compassion demonstrated by so many of our Lobos in the midst of a crisis. Finally, while this tragic shooting is deeply felt and an urgent issue for us at the university and in our community, it is important to recognize that gun violence among teens is a systemic problem affecting our entire nation. Firearms have become the leading cause of death for children and adolescents nationally. While UNM is confronting a critical campus tragedy, the underlying issues demand systemic, community-wide action that extends far beyond any single institution. It is a collective challenge, requiring sustained commitment from all of us, including policymakers, educators, families, and law enforcement, to build safer environments for all young people. As a key stakeholder in our state, UNM has been and will continue to be at the solutions table to the challenges we face. I want to assure every parent, student, employee, and member of the public, your safety and peace of mind are and will continue to be our top priority. We will continue to be transparent on issues related to campus safety as we move forward, and we invite the feedback of the community as we work together to build trust and resilience within our campus. As I mentioned, Executive Vice President Teresa Costandinides and Chief Joe Silva are here to help answer questions. I want to reiterate, and it is important that you understand, that the investigation into last Friday's shooting is still very much active. And we may not know or may not be able to answer every question that you have. But we're always available to help you understand how we've prioritized and resourced campus safety. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Teresa now.
Thank you, President Stokes, and good afternoon, and also thank you for everyone for being here today. My name is Teresa Constantinides, and I serve as the Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration for the University of New Mexico, and last week I was serving as the Acting President. Now, before anything else, I do also want to acknowledge the deep sadness and concern that we're all feeling after the recent tragedy on our campus. The death of a young person in our residence hall has affected many people in our community, from the immediate families to the students, staff, and faculty alike. And I know there are many questions about what happened and what we're doing in response. And right now, as the President mentioned, the investigation is being led and is underway by the New Mexico State Police. So out of respect for their process, we are really limited in what we can share. But at the same time, it takes thoughtful analysis to evaluate policies and practices and to determine what needs to change. That work is underway already, and we'll continue to share updates as we're able. But what I can speak to today is the work we've done and continue to do to improve campus safety. These efforts are not happening just this week or even overnight. Many have been in progress for months and even years as part of a broader, long-term commitment to making our campuses safer and more secure. Some of the more important steps we've taken or have in the works include new security fencing installed next to several residence halls to better define and protect those areas. We've made recent improvements to our code blue emergency phones, making them more visible, reliable, and accessible. We've made major expansions of outdoor lighting, and I mean major expansions. If you went to our campus 5 years ago in the night and came today, it would be a completely different experience. We work to eliminate dark or hidden areas across the campus, including in our parking lots, and each year as part of Safety Week, volunteers go around at night looking for opportunities to make improvements. We've made significant investment in additional security cameras and alarm systems on multiple campuses to both help deter crime, but also support our 24/7 monitoring and incident response. We have expanded use of badge-only access to more buildings so that doors remain locked and accessible only to authorized individuals, and we have many more buildings on the list to address. And as the President mentioned, an upgrade to our campus emergency alert system is underway to improve how quickly and widely we can communicate in an emergency. These are all real physical changes that reflect our serious commitment to safety, not just in response to this incident, but as part of our responsibility to the entire campus community. And we know there is still more to do. We are continuing to look, to listen, and continuing to act. Thank you.
Thanks. So we'll go ahead and take questions. Before you ask your question, if you could please state your name and your organization. And if there are any follow-ups that we weren't able to answer here, I'll be your point of contact. Also, if you didn't receive a little financial sheet that goes into detail on some of the numbers that the President and Teresa shared, Steve Carr over here has those for you to follow along. Cassie, go ahead and.
Hi, President. My name is Cassie Foote. I'm with KOB4. Knowing that gun violence is a systemic issue in our society, what efforts has the university carried out to make sure that guns don't get on campus and to specifically fight against gun violence on campus?
Well, I would thank you for your question. You know, I think we certainly have policies in place that say guns are not supposed to be on our campus, and we've been very clear and reiterated to our community that, you know, possession of a firearm on campus leads to consequences for people who are here. And I don't have any specific data, although maybe someone here at the table does, about the number of guns that have been confiscated over time. But we are always on the alert for those issues. Now, we have a lot of people at the university that do work on major societal issues. And so what I know we have are people that are involved in understanding and prevention of gun violence. And I think I would say that we know as a community and as leaders that these things are made more complex by many of the issues that accompany violence. And so I would say our institution has focused on what we see as the major issues for New Mexico, and we're involved at many levels in our community to help our community, our city, our state figure out, solutions that really can change the situations that we face. Is there anything that one of you would like to add?
As the president said, the University of New Mexico has a zero tolerance policy for unlawful firearms on campus. And the UNMPD takes this responsibility very seriously. We actively enforce policies and laws when appropriate. That said, no safety system is foolproof, especially when individuals intentionally conceal weapons or choose to break the law. However, we will constantly work to improve our strategies, intelligence sharing, and outreach. Since the incident, we've increased patrol presence and are conducting a thorough review of protocols, access points, and reporting mechanisms. We also encourage students and staff, if you see something, say something. We can't do this alone. It takes a whole community to keep our campus safe. Our top priority remains the safety and security of our community. We will continue to work with the university leadership and our state partners to do everything possible to prevent this from happening again.
Sorry about that. These are off. Thank you.
Thanks. Right here in the front. And
I'm Megan Hamrick with KUNM Public Radio. Can you talk about, you said there were going to be upgrades to the alert system. Those of us who are campus employees noticed a variability in the logo alerts. Some of us got some got others. We didn't all get the same. They come from different numbers. One person we interviewed got the notice about the shooting. She didn't get the notice about the lockdown. She was on her way to campus. Why does that happen, and what kind of changes are in the works for that? I'm also interested if people who live on the periphery of the campus get these alerts, because a lot of them walk through the campus.
As I mentioned before in my statement following the president, is we're looking at all the protocols. We're also looking at our alert systems and how that works and how we can better improve those notifications. We also got feedback that some of the notifications could use simpler language, so we're looking at that as well.
right here in the white right here.
You said that you were going to be upgrading your campus emergency system. So my name is Nicola. I'm with the Albuquerque Journal. Do you have a timeline on when that is, and will it be completed before the new semester?
So thank you for that question. I'll take that if that's all right. So this is actually a larger project. It will not be done. In fact, we just got the funding in the latest legislative session to get it started. We'd actually had a larger request than we know it takes. But just as the chief has answered the question before, there are issues with our existing alert system. Things have gotten much better with the implementation of the Rave Guardian app. We're able to get more reliable messages out through that. But we have issues, as you've heard, with making sure that everybody gets the messages and then they're in the right format that makes sense and they're not limited by the number of characters. In answer to the question that came earlier about members of the community currently can sign up for Lobo alerts, and we strongly encourage it. But we also know that we can do a better job with alerts through a better system.
And I just want to add on to what Teresa said. We did do a campus survey not too long ago to get feedback from the campus to inform the work that they're doing for the Lobo alerts, just to address some of the issues that Chief and Teresa brought up. Okay, I think right here in the black.
Hi, I'm Bianca Hoops with KRQE News 13. I have a question more along the lines of, we heard from, faculty, students, parents, more specifically people who are on campus. They say that they don't feel safe and they don't really see security patrols as much as they would like to. Is there going to be anything to address that, maybe having more of that?
So I will speak first, and perhaps there will be others who will have something to say. We are often surveying our students to find out perspectives about what we can do better. And one of the reasons I thanked ASUNM and GPSA is they are often bringing to us information about what our students are thinking. We have members of our staff that work directly with students that are always gathering feedback. I will say that that we're not getting very many emails or calls to my office or to our offices letting us know that they don't feel safe on campus related to this incident. But I don't want to take away from the fact that we see what has happened as incredibly tragic and serious, and something that we need to address. We offer services to students and our staff and faculty as well. So I would really hope that those who are feeling unsafe, that they would let us know, because we have been, our students work with us to come up with strategies to help our students and others on our campus. Our staff, our employees, I live on campus, feel safer as they go around our campus community. So I would welcome getting, hearing from those students and faculty and staff. And we're always looking for strategies to make the place feel safer.
Chief, did you want to say anything?
Last year, UNM conducted a survey, and the number one issue that came out on their survey was that students were more concerned about escorts after hours. However, safety is always an issue, and we work hand in glove with student organizations in Greek life. We participate with the new student orientation. We talk to parents and students about their issues and concerns. We also do safety talks. Anybody that requests a safety talk, we have different student organizations that will invite us to their forum, and we'll participate in their panel discussions. And so there's a lot of different avenues that we have. I also have office hours here at the sub that any student can come to me during the semester and talk to me about safety and security.
Okay, thanks. Next. Michaela? Oh, sorry, I'm the Albuquerque Raw. Sorry.
Chief, how many officers do you have on staff? And then the follow-up is, what do you tell your officers on how to be proactive to prevent crime?
Well, first, we have 49 sworn officers, and we're always looking at how we can be proactive. One of the things that we do is we involve ourselves in preparedness, and so we take that very seriously and train for a range of critical incidences, including active shooter scenarios. While I can't go into the specifics for safety and operational reasons, I can share with you that officers regularly participate in a variety of training formats. These include formal in-service training, virtual modules, and scenario-based exercises that integrate active shooter response into broader law enforcement. I also want to say that some of the lessons learned that we have through our training, we also participate and train the RAs as well, and so that they understand what our response is going to be and what they can expect from us and what we are expecting from them when we respond to an incident.
Okay, Michaela and then Megan.
Michaela from the Journal. You guys said that you were going to be adding security gates outside of the dorms, but outside of that, what are we doing to prevent student bring in people or people that are not students into the school? Are there going to be camera systems, a sign-in sheet? Because when this incident happened, we don't quite know who's going in and out of buildings.
Thank you very much for that question. That is what we are looking at right this second. So immediately, actually Monday morning, the president charged me, I charged a group with looking at what are the policies and practices right now and what can we do to strengthen them, if we have to make clarifications to our policies, what policies need to change. So we pulled groups together to look at exactly those things. It's premature at this point to tell you exactly what will change, but just from my own review of our policies and standards, well, although we have safety in almost everything that we talk about with our students, we've identified there's some gaps. So that's happening right now, and that, and to answer the question, I do hope we'll get through that by the fall semester. It takes a little while if a policy change is required, because that requires consultation and communication with everybody that might be affected. But for just general practices in terms of how we manage access to our residence halls, but actually to our entire campus, those kinds of things we can work on more quickly.
Megan and then Cassie.
Just touching on the RAs, what is their role? What happens if they find drugs or weapons within a residence? What's the process?
Whenever they come across something like that in a resident hall, they'll contact us, and we'll work with them. And it's a case-by-case basis. There's not one size fits all in the variety of things that they come across in our dorms. So, but we're there willing to assist them and work through to figure out what we need to do to resolve the issue.
Can I ask you real quick about, you said unlawful guns. I just want to make sure I understand. If someone is lawfully authorized to carry a gun as a citizen, they still cannot bring it on campus?
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Cassie?
Chief, so you said that you are increasing patrol presence. By how much? How many officers did you have patrolling the campus before, and now how many do you have? And then I guess the second part of my question is, you talk about being proactive and doing active shooter trainings, but how do you keep these active shooter incidents from happening in the first place? What are the efforts to prevent this from happening?
One of the things that we do is, first of all, the first part of your question is we have different types of patrol. So we use directed patrol. There's routine patrol, which is basically when you have just a shift that comes on, and there could be anywhere from, let's say, 4 to 8 officers, and they're just routinely patrolling the campus. We have directed patrol, which again, if we're directing our patrol for housing, they'll be focused on that, and they'll be concentrated on looking at the areas there for any problematic issues or concerns. As far as I think preventing that from happening, there's different things that we look at. One is when we're working with the RAs and we're talking about training and training the residents that are there, we talk about how we raise their level of awareness to what are some of the key things that they should be looking for. So that way when they see that, they can say something about it and report it to us. So, that's a preventative measure. We have different campaigns around the campus. We have bystander training. We have sexual harassment training, prevention. We have all kinds of online training on campus that students can participate. Students, faculty, and staff can participate, and that helps, give people the information that they can use to be able to report those to the police department.
If I can end on top of that, thank you, Chief. So you could argue that mandatory active shooter training, which is mandatory here at UNM, may not prevent such things, but we have actually within the last 2 years formed a new department, a crisis management and preparedness department, that is focused on helping if folks have concerns or information, they have a place they can bring it to talk through how best to handle it. And the police are involved. We have ethics and compliance. We have a whole group of folks that are there to help when something seems like a credible threat. What should we do about it?
Zach?
Yeah, Zach with KOB4. Kind of a two-part question here. Last Friday, summer obviously going on, was there an RA or someone in that residence hall that kind of is in charge of the students who were staying there? And I know you mentioned that you're addressing this, but what does the current handbook say as far as guests being allowed inside dormitories or student residence? Were the 3 people who were inside that dorm who were not students, were they allowed to be there? Were they not supposed to be there?
Okay. Can we answer the question about was there an RA in the hall?
I think at this time, because it is an active investigation led by the New Mexico State Police, and detailed law enforcement records have yet to be released to the public, it's premature to construct a narrative that does not rely on complete and substantiated account of the events that occurred. So I think I need to ask the public to allow the investigation, including the compilation of multiple law enforcement records and interactions and witness statements, to be finished before we draw conclusions that have not been verified. But to specifically answer your question, the outcome of that obviously is to review our policies and practices to make sure they're in line with what we expect. But as a reminder, this incident, we had the participation of not just the New Mexico State Police, but we also had the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, the Albuquerque Police, the New Mexico National Guard, and our federal partners. So we have a lot of information that we have to process before this investigation is complete.
If I can answer the question about what does the current handbook say, this is actually something that I refer to that we need to really make sure we have tight rules. The current handbook says that guests must be UNM students, but then it defines a guest as someone who is spending the night or has put their belongings in a room. We know that, at least for the residential life housing, that guests who are visitors are not allowed if they're non-UNM students. There is a practice, but we're still kind of investigating what are the practices across all of our dormitories. And this is an example of where we may need to tighten up the language in our student handbook. The other policy that we're looking at is the minors on campus policy, because it has certain expectation that a minor is on our campus involved in an active university program, imagine summer camp, that kind of thing, or they are either a student themselves or a child of a faculty, staff, or student. And we expect there to be somebody who is managing that minor. This is a circumstance that wasn't described in the minors on campus policy. So we're really looking at that to see how do we edit our policies, adjust our policies to address these kinds of concerns.
You had a question right here. Sorry, Cassie, just grab it.
Ben Schiller here before. I have a question. So with the papers that you gave us, it said that over the last 5 years, UNM Police received $1.8 million in funding. Would you be willing to go into further detail about how much went where over the last 5 years to parts of UNM Police Department? And then do you foresee any changes either in amount or where it's allocated taking place over the next few years?
So 1.8 million is a lot of money, and it goes in small amounts. So I don't have the laundry list of all the different things that we paid for with that, but your fundamental question is, do we think we might need to adjust it? Because not all of the funding, these are appropriations, has been spent. So for example, we have committed a certain amount to provide card key security on buildings. We may, as we study what's going on, say that we might want to put some of that to another purpose right now because it's a little more urgent. So those are things that are TBD.
Cassie, you're next.
Going off the RA question, for parents who send their kids to live in the dorms over the summer in student housing, does the university just in general staff RAs to be in student housing over the summer? Or what's the policy with that? Are the dorms typically staffed with RAs? Can students expect to have an RA when they come to campus?
Cassie, I can follow up with our Director of Housing as to the exact number of RAs or staff that are on during the summer and let you know.
Okay.
Is the student who was involved in this still enrolled at the university?
I think we had identified the student, they're called a gateway student, so they have provisional admission to UNM, but they're doing a 1+3 program. So they are admitted to UNM contingent on completing a 2-year, 1 year at a 2-year institution, and they are also afforded the benefits of students, like they get library access, are allowed to live in the dorms. So they're not technically enrolled in UNM as a student, but they're called a gateway student. And there's information on our admissions site that I can share with you if you need more information on that. Yes, in the black, sorry.
Bianca from KRQ. Is there going to be any changes to that Gateway program, going forward at all?
I think everything's on the table from the discussions that I've heard within the academic affairs area, is that all ideas are on the table right now. Cassie and then Michaela.
So in 2023, we had another on-campus shooting.
2022.
2022, thank you. Brandon Travis. What did you guys learn from that? Did you implement any safety changes specifically after that? And were those enacted during this shooting?
So every situation that we faced, including the 2022 shooting, gets reviewed and reviewed and reviewed. And every situation seems to be different. I would say, related to that tragedy in November of 2022, that, we did a lot of work to figure out what could we have done to prevent that incident. And, it's a different situation than the one we seem to be facing now. And I bring that up just because each of these cases is so unique. But the way in which we look at it, really much the same. We're trying to figure out what we could have done to prevent it, what things could have been put in place that would have prevented such a tragedy. And in that particular case, we did find some things. For example, without going into too much detail, we discovered that what precipitated that incident was something that had happened at a football game in Las Cruces, a fight that had taken place. And, there was a lot of soul searching around, had that been brought to our attention, were there things we might have done that could have prevented the incident that occurred on the day of the planned basketball game. I will say that, some of the changes that were made there really boil down to changes that took place with the way in which the New Mexico State and the UNM athletic departments work together with each other to deal with aggressiveness and fighting that might take place. And we've actually, I think it's been a bit of a culture shift to think about the rivalry as making sure that it's a much more friendly rivalry, because we don't want fights breaking out at athletic events. So that was a component of the 2022 shooting. I mean, there are many other parts to that. And many of the things that we've been doing in general are related to just increasing campus safety in general. But I would say that my memory of the things that we did related to the 2022 shooting really ended up turning out to be a lot more about how could we have prevented that by more intervention and awareness of a really difficult situation. And again, it's something unique, and that seems to be true of virtually everything we face. There are many factors and many things that we have to consider, but we look at all of them.
Megan?
Can I ask you mentioned residence life. Is there a difference between the dorms and the residences operated by American Campus Communities, where this happened, and they also operate Lobo Village? Are they treated differently in terms of how the protocols there, or the handbook?
If I could take that, President Stokes. So we are in partnership with American Campus Communities. American Campus Communities is something that many universities do to more quickly create housing for students, so it's a third party. And we work in very close partnership, but we do want to recognize they are a separate entity and organization. However, part of our contract with them is that they must abide by the same student living handbooks. And so for the contract with CASAS, those students have many of the same supplemental student activities. Lobo Village is a little bit more like an apartment living, so they're two separate sets. However, they must both abide by the student living handbook. Now, how they go about doing that is what we're investigating right now. And if there were any gaps, we're going to find out and try to fix them.
They manage the buildings, so they own the buildings?
They manage the buildings, they own the improvements, the land belongs to the university, but ultimately it reverts to the university. It's a long-term and rather complex contract, but they are our partners.
And Kayla.
So in the past 5 years, you guys have invested about $8-9 million in security cameras and things like that. How many cameras do you guys have? Where are they located? And did you guys have access to them on the night that the shooting happened? And did you use that to aid in your investigation?
So I'm going to answer the first part of the question, which is we have on our university, on our Albuquerque campus, over 1,800 cameras actively operating at any one time. And Chief, is there anything you can say about the information on the cameras related to the investigation?
The only thing I can say at this time is, yes, the cameras that Teresa are referring to were operational and did have recordings of things that will assist us in the investigation. And that's about as limited as I can give you.
Oh, and you said where? So these cameras right now, the vast majority of them are external cameras in parking lots and walkways. You'll see them. In fact, if you go outside here, you'll see them.
Okay, right here in the middle.
Big Later, thank you, Rob. This goes to the, not details of the investigations, I know it's active, but how quickly, we talked about the active shooter, how quickly does APD share shot spotter data if shots are fired on campus?
At this time, when shot spotter activation is made, APD does not notify us directly. That's something that we have to reach out to them, but we're working with them now to work a solution for that so that we can get notification.
Nikhil.
So there have been allegations that there was not a timely response to everything, and so I would just like to hear, do you guys feel that you had a proper and timely response, and are you guys going to be sharing any call logs, any sort of records that indicate when these first calls were alerted versus when you guys got out?
So regarding the response times during the incident on July 25th, I want to reemphasize that the investigation is still currently being led by the New Mexico State Police. Part of their comprehensive work includes establishing and verifying a detailed timeline of events, including the exact response times of all responding agencies, including ours. What I can say is that the University of New Mexico Police Department responded immediately once the call came in. Our officers acted quickly, swiftly, and in coordination with our campus safety protocols and mutual partners. However, out of respect for the integrity of the ongoing investigation and to avoid the release of incomplete or potentially inaccurate information, I must defer to the state police for confirmed details on response timelines.
Nikhila, did you have a follow-up?
Yes. How many officers were sent out that night?
Again, that's something that will be included within the investigation.
Am I missing anybody else? Oh, Cassie.
I think I just got a little confused. So this is just a clarification question. So when the shot spotter alert goes off on campus, does that alert go to UNM PD or APD?
So we don't have any shot spotter technology on campus, just around campus.
And so that alert goes to APD or UNM PD?
Goes to APD.
And then APD alerts UNM PD or does not alert UNM PD?
That's what we're working through now to see if there's consistency in that, because I do know that sometimes they do alert us and sometimes they don't.
Zach.
Are UNM's cameras part of the real-time crime centers of the city? Do they connect with that system at all?
Currently, we're working with the city to try to negotiate that because of the different platforms that we have, but We want to be able to share their cameras that they have around the university properties, and we want to be able to share our cameras with them.
Nikhil.
Clarification on the Gateway Student Program. Are these also summer and winter classes? Are they a full term? And kind of how does that work out with enrollment? I know you said that they're not considered fully enrolled UNM students, but just a little confused on those details.
I can give you the link on the admissions site, the details, like the steps that they go through, but my understanding is it's basically a 1+3 program where they are, if they're maybe not at the GPA threshold to enter UNM, but they're close enough, they'll do 1 year to 2-year institution with provisional admission. And then there are certain benefits that they do get as a provisional student, and all of those are articulated on that site. So if if you have questions beyond that, I can answer them for you later too. Zach.
Forgive me if this is kind of a dumb question. 911 calls made on campus, do they go to campus PD or do they go to APD?
If you make a 911 call on a mobile phone, it goes to APD first. If you make a 911 call on our system, our telephone system, it goes to UNM PD.
So I know you're saying that this is an active investigation, whatever words you can say, but surely you can tell us at what time your officers actually responded. Did they get the call of a shooting on campus anytime before 1:30? I believe that's what the official timeline was of when they first responded to a broken window, but was there any call to shooting before that?
Again, something that I mentioned in the original press conference, there were multiple calls going on, so I would reserve that for the outcome of the investigation.
Yeah, go ahead, Nikhil. Sorry.
Just another clarification question. So after the shooting that happened last week, the first immediate upgrade that we have is upgraded like gates around dorms, but all the other stuff is stuff that's been done prior, not currently, correct?
I'm sorry, you're asking about the question about since Friday?
Yes.
What have we been working on?
Since Friday.
Oh, since Friday, okay. So since Friday, we've actually initiated a review of policies, practices. We formed a safety, not formed, but kind of re-energized the safety group. They pulled them together, say, what can we do short-term? The president's given us the assignment, short-term and long-term in response to this. We know we can't prevent all crime, but are there things we've learned that we can do better, do differently to keep our campus safe? Because keeping our students, faculty, staff safe is our #1 priority.
And I think the fencing question, that was good. That's been going on for how long?
That actually has been going on since the 2022.
Since 2022. So the fencing that you would see on the
And the card key access.
and the card key access, yeah. Cassie and then KRQE. So.
So we know that students were told to shelter in place, and then that lockdown was lifted Friday afternoon, but there were still people out walking around on campus, even before they had apprehended the gunman. Is there any thought about taking measures to put things in place to make sure the campus is secure physically?
It's a great question. It's something that we can review. The thing that we realize is that not everybody is signed up for our alerts or Lobo Guardians, so they're not going to get those alerts. If they live in the surrounding area, they can walk on campus, walk on and off campus. So it is something an issue that we recognized, and we're looking at how we could resolve that in the future, or address that in the future.
And one of the things I can also say that day, we were aware of that, and we did know that what the chief said was some of the reasons people just weren't aware. And it is an open campus, at least a lot of it is an open campus. So that is why that when we lifted the shelter in place and we communicated out that there was still a crime scene, we actually had a lot of people protecting the crime scene. And not just UNM police, but also other law enforcement partners were helping us with that so that we didn't damage any evidence that was there.
KRQE. And then I would hear.
So my question would be, we've also heard from UNM alumni parents who maybe now don't want to send their students to UNM in the future, or their kids to UNM in the future. What would be your message to those people?
Well, I think it would be the message I mentioned when I was actually making my statement, that in fact, we take the safety of people on our campus very, very seriously. It has been a high priority for this institution. we have a situation in which, the issues of our community spilled over into our campus, and there's always been an awareness that that could happen. At the same time, we continue to focus on this and to make investments and to look for partnerships that allow us to help create a safer community all around. Obviously, we're concerned about our campus, but I can tell you that since I've been here, my concern is beyond the campus, because our students and our staff and our faculty, yes, we're on campus, but we live all around. And so we have a commitment to making this place as safe as we can. I'm not a fan of, I like to put our investments in things that make a difference. And so, I think that we're constantly trying to figure out what's going to be the best thing, what are the best things we can do now with the resources we've been able to garner. But it's always about doing everything we can to keep our campus as safe as possible.
And Nick, you had a question? Oh. Sorry, I had the light in my eye.
I was wondering, I have a few questions that can first ask. What do you currently have in place right now to prevent guns from getting inside campus buildings?
I can't hear
The
you.
question was, are there measures in place right now to prevent guns from coming into campus buildings?
Again, that's something that we can look at in the review of what has occurred. But I'd like to reiterate what I said earlier, is we have a zero tolerance of that. And again, what we've all mentioned at one time or another is students, faculty, and staff who are on campus, they're our best resource to let us know what's going on. So if they see something, they should say something and report it to us. There's different measures that we could take that may identify firearms on campus, and we're considering those and evaluating those and seeing, as the president said, we're looking for what makes the most sense for our campus community.
Anything else? Oh, yes.
I had another question. So how would you differentiate, you brought up the key cards and cameras, how would you differentiate between a non-student following someone in versus, say, two students walking in, one of them scans their card and pulls the door for the other student? What would you do? What would you do to possibly differentiate the two?
Again, I think that's something that we have to educate our community more, especially our student body, because when you have access-controlled buildings and dormitories and students are allowing other people to come in, that defeats the purpose of having a controlled access. So it's just an education thing and a reminder. And I think, we can put campaigns together that will help encourage students to be aware of that and be aware that people follow other people in. The other thing that we always remind our students in new student orientation is don't leave a door propped open.
And I think there's also something to be said for holding our students accountable. So if someone is found to be violating a campus policy, the student living handbook or whatever, holding those students accountable is an important piece of that.
And I want to add on to that too, that anybody can be asked for a student ID. A manager of the building, a police officer, they can require you to show a student ID if they think you're not a student. Anything else? Well, I thank everybody for coming today. If you do have follow-up questions, please let me know. I think most of you have my cell phone number and my email. So, and then I'll get the RA question, staffing question for the summer for you. Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lost the lid. Okay, there we go. Slide down. Slide down. Can't see that. Here you go. Oh, almost.
Joey, how can I help? We got 5 minutes to be back.